Fighting Blindness Canada's Young Leaders Program is a career-oriented initiative that provides young people living with vision loss in Canada with the tools they need to develop their skills and pursue rewarding careers. The session you are about to watch is a recording. To learn more about our upcoming programs, please visit us online at fightingblindness.ca/youngleaders. The Young Leaders Program is proudly supported by RBC Future Launch, Johnson & Johnson, and Rhythm Pharmaceuticals. We hope that you enjoyed this session and share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Thank you for watching.
So hi guys, I'm Alicia, and I'm very excited to be moderating this first panel with some incredible advocates within our blind community. So first we have three panelists, and our first panelist is Ben Akuoko. Oh my gosh. And he is a registered social worker and graduate from Sheridan College with his knowledge, with his social service worker diploma. He also has a social work degree from Laurentian University and is a recent graduate in Masters of Social Work at the University of Waterloo. Ben works at CNIB as an advocate and accessibility program lead in Ontario West. He is a huge advocate in highlighting the importance of intersectionality in terms of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, and disability. Ben lives with retinitis pigmentosa. We also have Anne Mok, who is a fearless advocate, TEDx speaker, author, and blind storyteller. She reshapes the narratives of a purposeful life, defying odds with resilience and determination. Her inspiring journey serves as a beacon of hope, navigating life's challenges with unwavering courage. She's committed to making a positive impact and illuminates lives, demonstrating the greatness knows no boundaries. And Joe Strechay is our final panelist, who he specializes in bringing award-winning stories involving disability to screen while making productions accessible to cast and crew with disabilities. He has worked on numerous scripts with writers around the world, advises on scripts on set to decoration to props, and to the blocking of scenes with the directors and cast, and assists in casting actors who are blind or low vision for numerous shows and networks. Currently, he is the associate producer on Netflix's All the Light You Cannot See, great show by the way, which was released to critical acclaim in the fall of 2023. So hi guys, so happy to have you here. The first question I would like to ask you guys is, how have you used advocacy in your professional and personal lives? And maybe we'll start with Ben.
Of course, of course. So hello, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here, and thank you for that introduction, Alicia. I appreciate it. So in terms of advocacy, I feel like in my work title, that's there with advocacy of education and doing advocacy in Ontario West. It's so key because, as I made mention, as a person with low vision, as a person who's racialized as well, sometimes the system's not really built for you. And it's a reminder that sometimes you have to speak up because people don't realize that the system isn't built for you. So it's so important that, I like to say, you flex your advocacy muscles, you back it up with personal stories, as well as you back it up with legislation and facts, or the knowledge of legislation and facts. And the fact that when it comes to an advocacy situation, or when you come in terms of advocacy situation, that you have a mindset of it, so you stay calm and collective as well. So for myself, it is a huge part of my life, because going throughout school and navigating the communities, as well as in the workplace, and coming across people who may not understand about low vision or blindness, may not understand about the experience. It's always amazing to have that voice to share your stories and to know how to do it in a appropriate fashion. So that's my experience with advocacy.
Thank you, Ben. Anne, would you like to go next?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here. I'm an Asian woman with long curls in my hair, and I'm just wearing a white top right now. For me, advocacy has really been the cornerstone of my journey, both professionally and personally. I really want to use my platform to and leverage it so that I can amplify our voices, the voices that are often unheard in the blind and visually impaired community. And I use storytelling to really bridge that gap between the sighted and the visually impaired worlds, and so that we can really foster understanding and inclusivity. Professionally, I have been fortunate to be able to collaborate with various organizations and brands to promote education and awareness through storytelling. For instance, I have a long partnership right now with Specsavers on just building education and awareness about eye conditions, the importance of regular eye exams, and the latest technology and equipment, most specifically the OCT machine, optical coherence tomography, that is now available at all Specsavers locations. And for me, if I had had that probably 8, 10 years ago, I think my diagnosis would have come a lot sooner because I spent eight years searching for a diagnosis. I've also been recently named as one of 15 of Google's rising influencers with disabilities. And this is a perfect opportunity for me to learn more about technology and accessibility and technology and be able to share it with the community and really test out um, what is available to us and get the behind the scenes to see what's up and coming next and also put in our 2 cents. Um, Additionally, my social media presence is really a daily platform for advocacy where I share educational content, my personal stories, and try to engage with a diverse audience so that we can really bridge that gap between the sighted and the visually impaired community because we want to raise awareness about our challenges, but our triumphs of living with vision loss as well. And personally, advocacy is really about everyday interactions. I feel it's so important for me to get out there and educate those around me and challenge those misconceptions and ensure that accessibility is in all facets of our life, whether it's advocating for accessible public spaces, inclusive technology, or just simply educating my friends and family about the importance of using descriptive language for the visually impaired, because I believe that every action counts.
Thank you so much, Anne. And Joe?
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to be on here. Um, as they said, I'm Joe Strechay. So I'm a film producer, television producer, and consultant who's totally blind and grew up with an eye condition, RP, retinitis pigmentosa. And advocacy for me started out for myself and then for others. And I have a few master's degrees around blindness related fields and so I worked in the field of blindness, but I also brought the perspective as I kind of fell through the system early on and didn't get those services. So I went into that world advocating for those who probably were not getting touched or reached by the services that I was involved in, and hoping to make change in that world. And as time went on, prior to that, I wanted to work in television and film, and I ran into a lot of obstacles and didn't think it was going to happen. And I ended up getting in the back door later in my life. So, I've been working since I would say first it started off as a hobby, and now I'm advocating. Then it became a part-time job, then a full-time job later on, and I advocate for people who are blind or low vision, but also other disabilities, and try to figure out how that inclusion can work. I'm brought into projects sometimes at the beginning, which is the goal, to be there early on. Sometimes I'm brought in late in the process, and I have to figure out what we can do and how we can do it. And but it's been a blessing getting to cast for shows on Amazon Prime, on Paramount. Oh, is it not Paramount? I think maybe it's Paramount, and some others, as well as for Apple and for Netflix. Um, it's important work, not just to advocate for myself, but to create that accessibility. And often when we talk about accessibility, it's like checking a box, and it really isn't that. It's also about usability. Things can be accessible, but not really usable. Um, so making sure that we're making stuff usable, making sure it's a process that works as well, or and advocating for that, whether it's within a studio, whether it's within a production, whether it's within a casting search, or anything else. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you all so much. And Joe, thank you for that. As an advocate myself, you three are huge inspirations to me, and I'm so happy to be able to moderate this. With that being said, my second question for you guys, what are your first memories of being an advocate? And were there any kind of moments that really sparked that? Joe, you want to go first?
Yeah, I would say in services and stuff, probably even before that, but advocating for other people who are blind or low vision. And I even in my graduate work, when I was studying about being a professional, I got involved in the community, and got involved in the consumer groups as well in the U.S. And still to this day, I'm involved. I'll be speaking at in the US at the NFB's national convention during the main convention about disability and in entertainment, and what's happening and what we're doing and what's going on, and where we hope to go. Yeah, I would say early on it was advocating for other students at Florida State even, and then getting involved in the greater community in the state of Florida. And then later on getting involved in other states, and then nationally. And I've been able to advocate through the World Blind Union in the past, but now my focus is more on entertainment. And I give back. Besides the advocacy side, and mentorship is so important. I know that's not our topic, but I advocate for mentorship as well. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Ben?
Yeah, of course. Very great points. And the one thing, and I love this question, where some of us, and I know when we're younger, we can't really put a word to certain things that happen to us, right? So I would say first advocating, and I would even say advocating, first having the concept of advocacy, or first having the concept of kind of unfair treatment, would be going to a mainstream school and being a person who has low vision, and kind of having that put into a square type deal. The fact that, okay, you need accommodations, or we're just going to give it to you. We're not even going to let your voice being heard, right? So I remember always thinking that's just like, I'm saying something and people are ignoring me, you know what I mean? Or people are treating me in a certain way where I'm in gym class and they're like, you can't do that. We're taking you out. And just me knowing that, yeah, like I play the sports with my brothers when I'm at home or something, or with my friends outside of school, right? So I think as you evolve and start to experience other people's experiences, or kind of get more involved in the community, or as the world evolves in looking at fair treatment, I find that, yeah, like, oh, that's the word that I have to use. That's advocacy. That's where I have to speak up. That's where I have to create a community where I could have some ideas from that community. So I would say the first time I really looked at advocacy, because before it used to be activism, and activism was kind of a dirty word, where it's just like, okay, it means protesting, it means flipping over cars, starting fires, and wrecking everything up. So I feel advocacy really started molding where when I was in university, when I was doing my diploma in social work, and then knowing like someone saying, oh, you need to use this. And you're like, no, I don't know. I know what I need to use, right? So I started molding. And then as I got older in my different work experiences, I finally noticed that you do have to use a voice, or you're going to be in that circle or that square I was making mention of. And then I find that once I got into the advocacy role at the CNIB, it was like, okay, everything makes sense. And that's where it really had my toolbox and my toolkit of what it means to be a true advocate and what it means to truly use your voice. Because the one thing I'm going to tell you folks during this panel is that advocacy is an art. It is an art, no doubt. It's not just, I'm going to go complain, I'm going to go write a letter. It is an art on how you have to track everything, how you have to get correct resources, so coming correct, and then at the same time, how you have to work with people as well. So it's not just me against them. So definitely, if you all have the opportunity, or if anybody wants to chat about advocacy, I could definitely help out for sure. But it is evolution, and it did take role to understand what it means to truly advocate for yourself. And don't be scared if you ever do make mistakes, because like I said, it's a muscle and you keep having to build that muscle for sure. So I'm going to pass it back on to you, Alicia.
Thank you, Ben. And I really appreciate what you said. Advocacy is an art. I think, especially within our panel today, we all have different ways of advocating and different streams of it. And that's a great segue to go into Anne and see how she uses advocacy as her art.
What Joe said and what Ben said exactly hits all the points that I feel as well. For me, my first memories of being an advocate, I think it starts off when you're a kid, because I always grew up thinking and struggling with my vision and just having the sense that something wasn't quite right. But again, I couldn't put the words to it. School was a challenge. Sports were a disaster for me, and my shyness just kept me from speaking out. And it wasn't just that I was clumsy or introverted. I realize now, looking back, is that I just couldn't see the world the way others saw it. And as I got older, my diagnosis didn't come until I was like with my kids and everything. But it's when I started to experience more and more difficulty with my vision, and I couldn't see the street signs in front of me, or the license plate of the car right in front of me, even though I knew what the streets were, but I just couldn't read them anymore. And I was having changes in lighting, going from dusk to dawn, and there was a time where there was a pedestrian crossing, and I was missing that pedestrian crossing at the peripheral of my vision. And that's when I realized, there's something really wrong. And I gave up driving on my own at that time. But I kept going to the optometrist and saying, I can't see what I know I'm supposed to see. But every single time, they're like, your eyes are fine, everything's fine. And it created this sense of anxiety in me, and that I even thought, like, am I having a psychological issue or something? But I knew deep down that there was something wrong. So I kept persevering and continually advocating for myself and visiting the optometrist each time. Um, and it finally got to a point where someone finally listened, and I was sent to the retinal specialist office. And that's the first time someone said, I believe you. And that was where a weight just lifted off me. Went through 2 more years of testing, and then I finally got the diagnosis of cone rod dystrophy. But I realized, that receiving that diagnosis brought a sense of sadness, but also relief, because all the puzzles fit together now, and I can now be proactive in what I needed to do for the future. Connecting with others who share these similar experiences, this has been really transformative for me. And it's these interactions that I begin to understand the power of advocacy, not just for myself, but for others facing those similar challenges. And by sharing our stories and educating others about what we're going through, it's a push for this better awareness and for support systems that can help us. And so I've realized that this journey has taught me that advocacy starts with believing in yourself, first and foremost, and not giving up when others might not understand your struggles or recognize your struggles. And it's really about finding your voice and standing up for your needs and building a community that really supports and empowers each other. So these early experiences are really what have laid the foundation for me in my advocacy work and reminding me of the impact of validation and how support can impact an individual.
Thank you, Anne. I really appreciate how you talked about, like, going back to the doctor, and I think we can all relate to
Mhm.
this, and advocating, saying like there's something there and I need you to listen.
Yes.
And not every doctor, I feel like, mostly wants to like not go to that, blindness and stuff, but when it happens, it's like it's, dare I say, an eye opener, but
Yes. Yes.
and I think with all of you three, there's not, I feel like within advocacy, especially, there's not just one pivotal moment. It's a accumulation of different moments in time as well. So with that being said, the next question is, did you have a role model who helped you learn how to advocate for yourself? And I will give that question first to Ben.
Very good question. And with my advocacy journey and just even my blindness journey as well, unfortunately, I did not have a role model at all. Like, especially, and this is why speaking about intersectionality is so key, because for myself, I did do my description. I'm a Black male, short hair, and even with myself coming from the Ghanaian culture, right? Like, for that culture, it was a faux pas to have a disability, right? It was unfortunately not almost seen as a curse to have a disability, right? So even with that said, it wasn't many resources that my parents knew about. I think their focus was more on, oh my gosh, we gotta find a way to heal his vision, right? Or the fact that we gotta find a way to hide his vision. So as a younger individual, having that mindset where I always thought, okay, I think I should, especially having IP and having some sight or good usable vision, I thought to myself, okay, instead I gotta hide my vision, like why look for a role model who I can't relate to, Like, okay, I see someone who lives with low vision, but I'm not even supposed to show that I have low vision, right? So growing up, no role models at all. But as I did get older, having especially the uh, young leaders and participating in that in my early 20s, and then meeting other people, I guess to answer, that was my role models to be more involved in the blind community. So I would just say when it comes to advocacy, it was any role models. It was more so just learning on the way. And I feel that that's why it is so important that you folks are in this room to learn from Joe, myself, and Anne, because unfortunately, the generation maybe perhaps before you and before even myself did not really have an opportunity to have panels like this and to push for advocacy and to have that resource. So I really urge you coming away from this is mentorship, just like Joe said before, and just seeking amazing people who you can really, really relate to. And I have a good feeling that there's someone who could really match what you're looking to seek and what you're looking to look for sure. So I pass it back to you, Alicia.
Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate that. And I can definitely relate. Growing up, you know, disability was always like, especially in school, was always a very hush hush thing. It was known I was blind, but other than that, like there was nothing. And you know, yeah, so I can really relate to that. And as I grew older and I was able to connect and start, you know, broadening my horizons, that's when I finally found role models. And I think something too is seeing it within the media. And so I'm gonna bring it to Anne first, and talk about, like, you know, maybe how you the question, but also how you use media to be that role model for others.
Yeah, just like Ben and yourself, Alicia, I had nobody to look up to, nobody to that reflected me. I did not see anyone that looked like me, um, with a white cane. I had nothing to go on. Um, and though I have an inherited condition, there's no one in my family that I know of that has it. So I felt like I was just navigating this world, really just trying to figure it out. So, and I really like advocacy came out of necessity for finding the answers. I always knew that I was a person that connected like through my heart with other people. Um, so I went into healthcare to be like a medical assistant and a nursing assistant, and I found my voice in helping others um, to get the answers that they needed, and just that persistence and that empathy and being a supportive advocate is probably where the seeds of advocacy started. Um, and just to be more persistent in myself. And that's when I found social media and connecting with others. And I kept looking on social media for someone like me. And I couldn't find it. But I found lots of other people in the community that experienced vision loss, but everybody's journey is different, but we all had many of the same feelings that we could talk about and connect about. And so from there, I've really had the privilege of just learning from everyday advocates within our community, and fellow advocates who share their strategies and experiences. And that's really contributed to my growth as an advocate. So I really feel it's important for me to always show up and be out there and be proud to rock my cane, which I'm very proud of, and show that I want to change that narrative of vision loss and that perspective. So that's how I want to create that inclusive environment for everyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anne. I really appreciate you talking about your, like, you know, not being able to find anyone on social media because, you know, when I was, you know, at the age to be able to access social media, that was the first thing I went to. You know, I never seen myself in media, books, or TV especially. I remember, you know, seeing my first blind person in a show, and it was Little House on the Prairie. And then when I realized it wasn't an actual blind person, it, you know, it was very saddening to see. And coming to the TV, I think Joe can talk about that a little bit more. Yeah, Joe?
Yeah, I can definitely. I didn't describe myself in the beginning. I forgot. I'm a white Caucasian, a cis male, a he, him, um, what dark brown hair in a ponytail. It's long, and I have a beard, and I'm wearing a pink shirt, pink shorts that you can't see, but I went all pink today for you guys. But I would say I was searching for role models early on, and I can remember in high school I worked at a video store, so it's kind of like I use this joke a lot, Netflix, but a building, and you go into the building or the store, and they have shelves, and if they have boxes with pictures of the movies, and if there's no tape behind the box, then you can't actually watch the movie. So it's like Netflix but different. So I worked there for 4 years through high school, and I was always looking for into films around blind that involve characters who are blind or with disabilities, and kind of looking for myself and questioning what I was seeing, uh, and and really became passionate about it over time. And as I got more and more expertise around my own personal experience, but also professional experience and training, I was looking at it with a different optic. So I searching for myself and not seeing myself. And I found my first role models in books through like reading about Eric Weinmeier, who started off as a role model. I had mentors. I found mentors who were blind or low vision around my time in grad school, especially, and post my undergraduate, and successful people who are blind or low vision. And I was low vision at that time, and very low vision and losing it. And connecting with people. So I had role models I looked up to. I had mentors. I tried to find mentors in different areas like technology and everyday life. I played a Paralympic sport around sports, and like certain people impacted how I saw work and how work. We can be successful. We can be managers. We can be executives. We can do all these different things. And um, you know, it's important. I still have mentors today. I have a collection of also people who are blind or low vision, who I connect with to talk about different technologies and different things. And now in my life, mentors are also persons without disabilities who are guiding me, who are showrunners and run their own TV shows. I believe in surrounding myself with successful people, and trying to learn from them and how they do things and get input from them. So just so important. And yeah, I feel lucky and blessed, and I've mentored people too. And for me, the mentee has to do a lot of work. Like if they're not showing the effort, I'm not going to waste my time. Like I give them a lot of chances, but if they're not going to do what they need to do, or what I'm expecting, and I'm clear about that, then I'm not going to participate. So it's definitely there's work for the mentor and there's work for the mentee. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Joe, for saying that. And I am someone, like, I'm in disability studies, but I'm currently wanting to pursue some more film and representation area, and I can really appreciate your views as well. And I really liked how you said having different mentors in different areas and aspects. I think having, connecting with different people with vision loss, and different jobs and careers is so important, because it not only gives like the younger person, the mentee, like, different options and being like, I can really do like X, Y, and Z, but it breaks those like stigmas and stereotypes of, the stereotypical jobs that a blind person would do, or, for many people, oh my God, blind people can work, kind of thing. So I very much appreciate that. And so this is our final question before we do the Q&A. And so that question is, what do you think are the qualities of a successful advocate? And I'm going to start with Anne.
I think that I would say the qualities a successful advocate embodies would definitely be resilience, empathy, and just like a deep sense of commitment. Resilience is so important in advocacy because we will often face numerous obstacles and setbacks. But if we're persistent and willing to face those challenges head on, we can continue pushing forward, even when the progress seems slow or difficult. This resilience isn't just about enduring hardships, but also about finding creative solutions and still being hopeful in the face of adversity. The other thing is empathy is another crucial quality. Um, Allowing advocates to connect deeply with experiences and emotion of others. I'm a listener and a learner, and I don't know, I will say it first, I don't know everything, but I want to learn. I want to hear what people have to say. I want to hear their stories. I want to know how they're doing so that I can connect with them and find solutions that way. Because it's really just so important for understanding uh, the specific needs and challenges faced by our community. Um, and empathy also helps us to effectively communicate those needs to the broader audience, and so that we can really foster that understanding and support. Um, and being committed to justice drives successful advocates to challenge these inequalities, and so that we can fight for a more inclusive world. Um, it's just a profound belief that it's in the inherent worth and dignity of every individual, right? That we all um, help each other and advocate for each other. I think these are really important qualities. And I think that also a successful advocate is collaborative, and they recognize the power of collective action. It's not, we are all in this together, and I think we can move mountains when we do it together.
Thank you so much, Anne. Something that you touched upon was empathy. And I know for me, I've been blind since birth, but I didn't accept my blindness until 18 years old. And I, for the longest time, was in the mindset of sympathizing for myself.
Mm.
And I think when it wasn't until I changed my sympathy into advocacy when I really
Yeah.
became a strong advocate and leader for myself and my community. So that's a point I really appreciate you brought up. Ben, would you like to talk next?
Of course, of course. So I guess having the social work background, I'm going to bring the feels into this uh, answer. So what I learned, especially being an advocacy program lead, is the fact that when you're advocating for a purpose or a campaign or even yourself, unfortunately, you're supposed to take out emotion and feelings, right? And I say that where I'm not saying that we can't be upset from things that do happen, because it's injustice, right? But the most important thing is it's a place for emotions and feelings. So if something does happen, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel to feel. But when you are advocating at the time, you have to have your mindset, because this is something where you're dealing with others, you're dealing with a policy, you're dealing with, I would say opposition, but or an organization, right? And it's so important that you have your mindset. So if it's transit, you're advocating for better transit, and you're dealing with government officials. Unfortunately, emotion's not going to be the only thing that you can be driven by. So it's important, like I said, even in the beginning, it's important to know your legislations. If you're dealing for store, know the regulations. Even knowing the AODA, and for those who are in Ontario, or knowing the policies behind disabilities if you're in a different province as well. So equip yourself. I call it the toolkit, right? The tool belt. Whenever you're going into an advocacy issue, and especially for you folks who are going to post-secondary school or are doing grad school or doing a PhD or something like that, it's important that you have those regulations. And then also on top of that, just like what Anne was highlighting upon, build that community. It's so key to build that community, get people who are doing similar advocacy work, because as a collective, you're just as strong, right? And sometimes we forget that we're not the only ones going through that issue. So build that connection, connect with organizations that have to do with what you're advocating against. pick people's brains. And then also, yeah, like I said, having, at least for myself, 3 things I really want to highlight on it is take emotion and feelings out, know your legislation, and then connect as a collective. So I'm gonna pass it to you, Alicia.
Thank you, Ben. And I can really I appreciate like how you spoke about upon like, you know, having those feelings, but you know, putting those feelings aside when advocating is, and I think it's very important like for those, like, you know, when you put your emotions aside, but you also have the community to back you up, those two when advocating go hand in hand together. Um Now, Joe, would you like to speak upon this?
Yeah, I definitely can address that. And my thoughts on being an advocate and like what makes a good advocate. I think I'm going to steal stuff from Ben and Anne, who expressed a lot in these questions. Like, really, it is an art form and it needs to be practiced. And you're not going to use the same formula each time, and you have to read that situation. And that only comes from practice and experience. The more you practice it, uh, in the right situations. There's also a danger of becoming too like advocating too much. Some people come out guns blazing every time, and that you create friction and you create separation sometimes, and you can turn people off right from the start. I like to kill people with kindness, and if that doesn't work, then I might move on to something a little more practical and poignant. Uh, but overall, I try to educate and create awareness. And then if they're not getting it, then I have to advocate more in a more direct way. So I practice it. We have to practice it in our life. But yeah, but also again, I'm going to say there is also a concern of being overly over advocating, where you come out for littlest thing, and or you have to figure out what the timing is, and that comes from experience again. But it is definitely an important skill that needs to be practiced and honed and used. Yeah, it's a pleasure being on here. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I very much like your how you talk about advocacy as well in this point. So with that, we are going to go to a Q&A. As I feel like we could sit here all day, and talk, but we'll open it up to the floor. And if you have any questions, feel free to if you can raise your hand or
Yeah, we
do
can
something to
we
signify.
exactly. We can do raise hands. We can do you can pop them
Chat.
in the chat. Just while people are coming up with their questions. Thank you all so much. This has been so great. And a couple things that really resonated for me. Sorry, this is Morgan speaking. I should have said that. Empathy, and like that was beautiful. I like literally had goosebumps because I think that's just like such an important life lesson for all of us, right? Is to approach people with empathy in any circumstance. And I love that. And, you know, Ben, I don't know if Ben even knows this, but Ben and I've known each other for a few years now. And Ben has taught me so much about advocating for myself. And I came into, you know, working here at Fighting Blindness Canada thinking I was a pretty good self-advocate. And Ben has made me better. So thank you, Ben, so much for those words. It's really it's transformative to think about advocacy in the way that you talk about it. And Joe, I don't even know if you know this, but the first time I saw Joe was actually at an event, an online event from Mentor in the States. And Joe was a guest speaker, and we did not have a mentorship program yet at Fighting Blindness Canada. And I was playing with the idea of starting our mentorship program. And I saw Joe talk at this event, and I was like, okay, so we're doing a mentorship program, and I need to meet that man. He is awesome. So if you're in our mentorship program, you have Joe to thank, because Joe definitely kicked me into high gear when I heard him talking about the power of mentorship and how it can be so transformative in all communities, but in this community specifically. Okay, so let's see about questions. We don't have a ton of time, but I thought I saw a hand raised.
There's 2 hands raised. There's Amanda and then Allie.
Perfect. So Amanda, why don't we start with you? Feel free to unmute and you can share your question.
Hi, sorry, it took a minute to find the unmute, but I'm here. So first of all, thank you to all the panelists for all your insightful information today. It was really great to learn about your experiences. My question is for, I guess, Joe and Anne, because I too have a media background. I graduated RTA media production at Ryerson, and I've been doing some work at AMI and at CBC. But my question for you is, what advice do you have for someone who's trying to make it in the media market? Like, I've done a lot of like radio and TV stuff, and I'm really passionate, and I'm, at the point where I'm, trying to, find something, more permanent. So what advice would you have for someone like me?
Who would you like to go first?
Joe, you can start if you would like.
Okay. Yeah, my thought to you would be, if you want to like be making media, make media. So whether it's creating short films or creating skits and filming it, or doing theater, whatever that is, just do it. And the more you practice it, the more you learn from your mistakes and keep doing it, the better you get at it. And also connect with people who also want to make media, who have the same similar goals. And it doesn't have to be the same kind of media. You learn from all these people around you that you work with. My undergrad is in communications and media, but the most learning you do is working on projects. So working with other people, and I can tell you it changes my life, and those people will see your skills as well and your passion, and bring you onto other programs or projects, and then introduce you to other folks. And for my world of media, it's gig work. Like, I'm going project to project. I have to hustle, and I feel it with, like, I have 3 independent films between $5 to $10 million that I'm working on now. 2 animation projects. One is like an indie animation project. The other one's a bigger animation project, but a small piece of it. And I do public speaking out in the community, and like at high schools and around the US and other places and middle schools. But I do advisory consulting for like the American Printing House on their museum that around blindness that they're building, called the Dot Experience. So in all these aspects, I'm helping companies create like featurettes or little documentaries about topics or other things, and advising on scripts. But the more you put yourself out there, and the more you connect with and network with people that are doing the work you want to do, the better. Yeah, that's my thought.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely great advice. And I definitely feel that now, with, the jumping from project to project, I'm actually covering 2 music festivals here in Toronto for a radio station I'm volunteering for. So that's really exciting. And we've also been, trying to make the actual physical space accessible, like putting Braille labels on the mixing consoles. So yeah, I think it really resonated with me what you said about, not just trying to connect with people from many different areas, but also really the fact of like, really, honing in on that, and, trying to, advocate and kind of stretch your boundaries in different ways when it comes to media, like, not just being fixed to like TV and radio, but also kind of doing more of the, public speaking side of things. So thank you so much.
Alicia, I think we probably have time for one more question. I think there's a question from KJ.
Yeah, KJ.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So my question is, I guess for anybody on the panel, how do you teach people, or how do you convince people, compel people, to care about your advocacy projects and what you're doing? And the other thing is that like, have you guys dealt with gaslighting, and how do you know like how to stand your ground and what to do when there are people that are doubting you or convincing you that it's not a big deal with whatever injustice or issue is going on. Thank you. And I'm extremely enjoying this panel and discussion. I appreciate it.
Okay, perfect. So I think there was like a couple parts to that question. One, how do you get others to really care about your particular advocacy concerns or projects or questions, and how do you address when you're being gaslit? And I think we've all been there, so that would be another part of that question.
Can I answer this question?
Go for it.
Excellent. I feel like I'm back in school. May I question for question? Thank you so much for that question. And that's a really good question because I see times where I remember doing a deputation in Hamilton and then also in Ottawa, we were doing it for Bill C-222. And what I've seen is the fact to get people to care is a mix. And this is why I say advocacy is our art form, is you have to have a mix of putting your personal story, and it's so awesome that Anne's here, and then a mix of having like having it to back up. So it can't be one side. You can't go into advocating for yourself and saying, oh, like as a person, this sucks. And oh my gosh, I had to do this. And people are going to stop listening. But if you're able to have it where you have facts behind it, where you make mention, supposedly it's something with school, you make mention how not getting your accommodations is a huge thing to put you behind in school. And then you back it up with legislation, then people start to listen. And then they have that, oh, we are supposed to do this. And then they have that, oh my gosh, if I was in that situation, that would be really, really hard. So it's so important to have that beautiful mix of like that personal story attached to regulation and legislation. And then also, like I said, build a community. Build a community, and not even just if you're advocating for disability. So I remember with we were advocating, I was doing deputation for audible pedestrian signals, and not to really capture the eye of these government officials, you make mention that okay, this is for kids with families who need to cross the street. This is for elderly people. This is for people with other disabilities. So you have a community that could help back you up as well. It's not just, oh, the blind, low vision community as well. So it's so important that I would say the takeaway is when you are advocating for yourself, have that personal story as well as the facts, and then build that community as well. And you will get people to start to listen because when you make it relatable, people start to say, okay, we got to make changes, right? Because if I was in that situation, and it makes them easy to imagine them being in that situation. So I guess I'll pass it to Anne as well, because I really would like her perspective if we have time.
Are you okay for time?
Yes, absolutely. I will end with Anne here. We'll let Anne
Okay.
chip in. I think the power of storytelling is coming through here so clearly. I'd love to hear what Anne has to say.
Yes, I would say absolutely. I totally agree with Ben. I, number one, lead with kindness. So when I go out there, I'm very subtly advocating because I'm leading with kindness, and it will draw out curiosity from people. And I'll take that curiosity as a time to educate. And as they see how I'm interacting with them and how I navigate the world, they start to understand better because I don't look blind when I go out. So that helps to see, for them to see like what's possible for us and the challenges that we face and how they can help, because then they start to realize, I totally understand you. I get what you're saying, because we can all empathize together, and can be compassionate towards each other, and that brings out the allies. So that's where I get a lot of the sighted community really uh, backing me up and supporting me, because we need those allies to help us. to get our message across. And storytelling is the number one way. When they can see how you're doing things and how you're managing and how you're sharing things, that's when you can just change. You can change perspectives so much better that way, rather than, like, as Joe said, like going out with guns a-blazing. That doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. That's not my personality. So I will always lead with kindness to show what we are fully capable of.
Well, I think that's a beautiful note to end on. Alicia, did you have anything you wanted to wrap up?
Nope, I think I'm just starstruck by everyone, and I'm really, really happy about this conversation. So thank you all.